Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
You are listening to the TrekRanks podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 8, featuring the top 5 data episodes. And welcome, Star Trek fans. Today's episode of the TrekRanks podcast is definitely operating within normal parameters. I am your host, Jim Moorhouse, and as always, happy to be joined this evening by Jeff Hulit, the founder of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. Jeff, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing great, man. Been looking forward to this one.
Ready to break it down on Lieutenant Commander Data. All right, and joining us for tonight's show, we have 2 spectacular guests and amazing Trekkies. First up, friend of the show, Matt Hansen, a regular at the Nerd Party Podcast Network. Matt, great to have you here. I know you were on shore leave recently too, right?
I was, but it's good to be here and good to be back.
Yes. TrekRanks is happy to have you because I know you know your Trek through and through since we are good friends. And finally, we have our friend Andi from the Women at Warp podcast, also known to many of you on Twitter as First Time Trek.
Hello.
Yes, Andi is there. I've activated my emotion ship tonight, Andi, because I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
You're just excited because this is me, you, and Matt 2.0, because the last time I saw you, we all went out and we saw Beyond. We got some food.
Oh,
that was last year at Vegas. That was a highlight of Vegas for me, is going and seeing Star Trek with you guys.
Exactly a year ago. We're going to miss you at STLV this year, but you'll be there in spirit.
Absolutely. Get drunk or something for me.
Yeah.
Raise a glass.
No, I'm just going to watch. I'm going to watch Star Trek for you.
That works too.
That's okay. I'll get drunk and watch Star Trek for you.
Yeah, there you go.
Just let Andi call some episodes while we're getting ready to watch them. Just have her tweet an episode that she wants us to watch, and you'll have to put it on for us.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Oh, there you go.
We will do that. You're going to pick an episode that we're going to watch in my room with a bunch of people, Andi. That's the plan.
Sounds perfect.
And actually, I said my room. It'll be Matt and my room because Matt and I are rooming together at Vegas again this year. All right. So I always like to start here a little bit. Let's get the Trek origin story from you guys. So Matt, how long have you been a Trek fan and indoctrinated into our Star Trek world?
So I've been a Trek fan for 23 years at this point. My big indoctrination to the Trek world was, my dad was a fan, and he took us when I think I was 5 when it came out, to go see Star Trek Generations in the theater. So that was my first exposure to Star Trek and really anything science fiction, because I ended up seeing Star Trek before I saw Star Wars. Oh. So I remember just being fascinated by Generations because it was not like nothing I ever seen before. And then right afterwards, my parents would tape the reruns of Next Generation for me. Nice. And I would watch them before school every day.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great, and that's interesting because of your age that you saw Trek before Star Wars. That's cool.
That's
all
right,
Andi. Now I know you. Most people know you from your awesome Twitter account, First Time Trek. But tell everybody kind of how that came about when you started watching Trek.
Well, Star Trek was something that I avoided for a really long time. Yeah. It was one of those things where everybody kept telling me to watch it, so my contrary ass was like, no. So I was avoiding. I was like, I know that the second that I watch Star Trek, I'm gonna love it, and then I'm gonna be a huge nerd for it, and then the next thing you know, I'll be at a convention with Spock ears. It wasn't very far off, to be honest. But when I finally decided to do it, I kind of built it up in my head, so I was like, well, I gotta make it special. So I will live tweet it, and then that way people can kind of get a fresh perspective on it, because I know one of my favorite things in the world is forcing my friends and family to watch things that I love and then watch their faces while they see it for the first time. So that was kind of the idea. And I started live tweeting it on July 4th, 2013. So it's been a journey. And
I like to give you a hard time about watch it faster. You need to keep going.
Here's the thing. If I wasn't live tweeting it, I would have been done with it years ago.
Yeah, it's true. Right.
It's the live tweeting is actually it takes a lot of like mental energy because I'm trying to be funny and I'm trying to like get into the deep issues and do it all really quickly. Yep. So it's hard to do really fast for me. And plus there's this kind of part of me that never wants it to end. So I kind of don't want to rush my way through it. But
well, when you're done, you're just going to do it all again. But actually, I like true. That. Then don't go fast because we want you to keep live tweeting because that's...
You better go get that second time Trek Twitter handle lined up.
But do kind of go fast because at least in DS9 you're getting right to the point where the show gets amazing, and it's amazing. It's amazing for its whole run, but like 4 through 7 is really good.
Yeah, she's right. She's right there. It's right in the middle. Okay.
Yeah, I just finished up The Way of the Warrior, which was excellent.
So good. All right, so before we get started, just a quick reset here on our general order number 1 at the TrekRanks podcast, just in case this may be your first time listening or tuning in for us. So here at TrekRanks, we like to do literally my favorite thing ever, and that's talk about Star Trek. And we use rankings as kind of our crutch just to have fun conversations about Trek and do a deep dive usually on one specific topic to see where it takes us. So. And of course, the main driver for all of our discussion here at the TrekRanks podcast is
infinite diversity.
In infinite combinations.
Or in other words, Vulcan Master, our mantra at TrekRanks is no wrong answers.
That's
and just one final point. Yep, I always like to make the point that I love all Trek. And this show is about the reasons we love Star Trek. It's not about breaking down the things that we can nitpick or... You can find that stuff elsewhere. So I love original series, TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, and the Kelvin timeline. Shout out to the Kelvin timeline. So it's all fair game here on the TrekRanks podcast.
And the animated series.
Oh, I didn't mention that because it's not.
You did say no, but you said all Star Trek.
Yeah, no, but it's an all televised Star Trek that was
televised
in the Star Trek Encyclopedia by the Akutas. How about that? All right, I know I always get hammered on this because I'm not a big animated series fan. But having said that, we're just going to move right through that, and because that could be a debate for a whole episode. So, Jeff, before we get activated here, can you please fire up our subspace transceiver array so our listeners know exactly how they can contact us?
I sure can, Jim. If you're looking for us online, you can find us at TrekRanks.com. The network is the tricordertransmissions.com. We're also on Twitter at TrekRanks, and you can also leave us a voicemail, and we'll give this number out again at the end of the show. Our voicemail number is 609-512-LLAP. And if you're looking for me, I'm Warp Factor Jeff on Twitter. Back to you, Jim.
Awesome. And if you do check us out at the TrekRanks page at the tricordertransmissions.com, we have a running total there of some of the TrekRanks statistics that you could just... It's pretty cool because you can see what kind of love each series has been getting in terms of the different kind of fan feedback that we track from what we get from Twitter, Facebook, and all the different social media outlooks. And then you can reach me on Twitter at Enterprise Extra and at TrekRanks. So please send us your list because, as I always like to emphasize, this show is better when we hear from you. So Andi and Matt, how about you guys? Tell everyone how they can contact you.
Ladies first.
Easiest way to get a hold of me for basically everyone, including my family, is on Twitter at First Time Trek, and I'm live tweeting through there, but I also yell a lot, so that's there.
And you can follow me on Twitter. It's also the easiest way to reach me. I am at mhansen0207 HANSEN, talking about all things nerdy, Star Trek, Star Wars, lately the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all sorts of stuff.
Lately? That's your bread and butter. I love it. All right. And he also likes to hammer DC, which I love.
Am I the only DC guy here? Ugh.
Yeah, no, let's not start.
Not the films.
Okay, not the. I'm
talking about the films.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
not the comics.
I get it. I'm with you.
All right, I think we're ready to get into the topic for this week's episode.
I do not concur with your captain's decision.
She's following our prime directive.
Define prime directive.
All right, we're going to skip the diagnostic cycle this week and dive straight into our prime directives just to get going on our top 5 data episodes. So this show is pretty near and dear to my heart because if you check out my all-time character rankings at TrekRanks, you will find that Lieutenant Commander Data is my number 2 all-time favorite character. He's a huge part of the rebirth of Trek in the late 80s, and I just think Brent Spiner's portrayal, quite honestly, is one of the reasons we're still talking about Star Trek and the Next Generation 30 years after they debuted. So I want to get into this. Jeff, let's start with you. What's your take on Data, and what was your prime directive in making your picks tonight?
Now, I agree. Data is one of the most interesting characters in Trek, and I think he added a level of depth to TNG and the TNG films that it almost felt like the Spock character. I know that was the intention of it, but he definitely had a great evolutionary path. And my prime directive is super simple for this one. It's just Data moments that I think define his character or illustrate his journey toward becoming more human, which was his aspiration, or Data moments that spur on deeper thoughts and conversations. So Data has so much depth. I think looking at it that way for me makes the most sense.
I like that. That's interesting and a little different than me. So how about you, Andi? What was your prime directive?
Similar. I wanted to go with stuff that was memorable, but also things that I thought kind of defined Data as a character. And also just, I think he has one of the strongest overall series arcs in all of Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
So like the moments that kind of define that arc for me and in the different ups and downs he went through it towards, figuring out what it meant to be human. And I think there are a lot of really great moments that could fit in there. So I just tried to choose ones that really resonated with me personally.
Cool. This one was hard to narrow down. There's a lot of options. All right, Matt, how about you? What was driving your picks?
So I agree with the overall love for Data. He was one of the first characters I ended up gravitating to when I became a fan of Star Trek. He's definitely in my top 10. He's not my number 1, though. That would, of course, be Jadzia Dax.
Of course.
But yeah, so I figured that there was the potential for overlap here because there's a lot of episodes that are considered, classics for Data's character. So I tried to pick ones that are kind of off the beaten path. Maybe some of them will cross over, some of them won't, but I tried to stay away from the big ones. Awesome. I also wanted to just check real quick. Andi, it's been a long time since you tweeted about Next Generation. You watched all through Next Generation, including all the films, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I might have pulled something in from the films, and I didn't want to spoil you if you hadn't.
Yeah, no
That's
worries.
Good.
One of the biggest spoilers I ever got actually was somebody did tell me about what happens to Data and Nemesis when I was in the 3rd season of TNG, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Damn it.
That's the danger. Well, that's one of the reasons Andi's on the show tonight, because as soon as we had a TNG specific topic, I was like, "Oh, now Andi could do this show."
Now I can do it.
Because normally we do everything, so that's awesome. All right, so for me, I went with a little bit of a combination. I think a couple selections were 100% just based on the fact that they're my favorite Data episodes. A couple of them are super high up on my ranks. And then a couple are episodes that really I wouldn't normally rate that high, but I feel in the context they give a real insight into kind of the true Data. I like when he takes command, so that's a little bit of a spoiler alert. And one selection in particular is not a very popular episode, but it has 2 or 3 just kick-ass Data moments that I just love. So I love Matt, that you're going to go for some deep cuts because we love deep cuts here at TrekRanks.
I'm going to try. I don't know if they'll end up being deep cuts or not, but
sounds like it. Well, we'll see. Well, maybe I'll keep a stat tonight. I like to keep stats as we go. Maybe I'll have a deep cut stat. So, nice. All right. Before we introduce our favorite Jem'Hadar, third Ramadaclon, to help us go through the order of things, Andi, you have not yet met third Ramadaclon, but someday. A quick reminder again on how we're going to just kind of go through everything. We'll reveal the name of our top data episode, and then we'll each give our 5-word summary and a hashtag for that episode and why it speaks to us. And then we can talk quickly about, why the episode or maybe potentially a single moment from that episode defines Lieutenant Commander Data for you in an impactful way. So, all right, make sense, guys?
Yep.
All right. Third Armadaclon, you are up.
I am a Jem'Hadar. He is a Vorta. It is the order of things.
Okay, I think we're going to throw to Andi first, and then Matt, and then Jeff, and we'll just go through the order. So, and at the end, don't forget, we're going to ask for some secondary system selections. So maybe a pick or two that maybe just missed your list that you want to make sure you get on the record. So, Andi, what is your number 5 data selection?
Okay, so it's kind of a weird selection because I hate this episode.
It's a great start. I love it.
But I actually chose the child.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Because it has one of my absolute favorite data moments of all time in an exchange with Pulaski, where they're going data. And he says the best line that I just hold dear in my heart all the time. One is my name, the other is not.
Data, look at this.
Data.
What?
My name. It is pronounced Data.
Oh?
You called me Data.
What's the difference?
One is my name. The other is not.
The way he just so calmly shut down the disrespect that was happening, I really relate to it. And I think that you can kind of take this one small moment and this basic respect issue, call people what they want to be called, use pronouns that people want you to use. People get to choose those things, And if somebody tells you, hey, my name is so-and-so, don't call them something else. If someone tells you, hey, I prefer to be called she, don't call him he just to be a jerk. It's just, I love that moment. And I know it wasn't a great moment for Pulaski, poor woman. I mean, I don't think there's anything more calculated to make us instantly hate a character than being mean to Data.
Right? That's exactly what I thought. It's that's not the best way to introduce her to the audience.
Yeah, poor woman. But for Data, I loved it. And I loved how encapsulating that moment is just respect people, So that's why I chose that. And I think it's a good episode for Data just in general because he's super cute in it. He's one of the few people that is not creepy in it. So just by virtue of not being a creep in that episode, he comes off really, really well. But yeah, that's my first moment.
This is exactly why TrekRanks exists. This pick is so awesome because you would never. I mean, I never would have thought of that moment or that episode, but that moment defines him so well. It's perfect. It's as good as any of the moments on my list in terms of defining who he is as a character. I love it. Love that.
I'm glad.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Okay, let's keep rolling. Matt, what's your number 5 pick?
Do we have to give a hashtag for each episode?
Oh yeah, forgot. 5-word summary and a hashtag. Thank you, Matt. And
all right, so my 5-word summary and a hashtag for this one is respect people and their identity, hashtag golden rule.
Nice.
Perfection. Okay, Matt, jump in there. Thanks for remembering that. I get so excited sometimes.
Yeah, well, I wish I had remembered the 5-word summary. I thought the hashtag was supposed to be exactly 5 words and summarize it, so that's how I did it.
A lot of people do that. A lot of people make that mistake. You are not the first.
Okay. Well, my first.
You can do it any way you want it when you do it. It's no problem.
Okay. Well, my first pick is the most toys, hashtag he pulled the trigger, bro.
Oh, I love it.
Just don't count me up too quickly. I had you in my collection once. I can have you there again.
Unlikely, sir. Your collection has been confiscated. All of your stolen possessions are being returned to their rightful owners. You have lost everything you value.
It must give you great pleasure.
No, sir. It does not. I do not feel pleasure. I am only an android.
I picked this one because it's something that you sometimes doesn't show up on normal like top data lists. Usually you get something like Measure of a Man or Data's Day or Offspring. But this one was really interesting because we had never really seen, I don't think, up to that point what Data would be like in a prisoner / crisis situation and how he would have to deal with it and what his programming would allow to compromise. And I picked that one mainly for its ending because I like how it's left ambiguous, but I think that the subtext is, he pulled the trigger, bro. That's why I made it my hashtag.
It's so good. I got thrown off because this on our last episode, the one-off villains. This is Kivas Fajo is my number one-off villain, and this moment is the one I highlighted in the episode because I love what happens to Kivas Fajo. When I say that, I don't mean that he ends up in jail. I mean that Data tried to kill him. I love that.
He's so smug and so smarmy throughout the episode that, like, I like that last minute at the end where he knows that Data is going to kill him, and he finally starts to get the message.
So, by the way, we're a little off the rails here, but yeah. I'm going to say this is one of my secondary system selections, and I'm going to bring it up now because it has one of my favorite Data moments in it when he imitates Kivas at the little creature that's in the box, and he's like doodle 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 doodle. He's trying to play with it, and he's just saying doodle little doodle doodle little doodle. Love that moment. All right, so Jeff, let's go to your number 5 pick. What do you got?
5 words are Data breaks the Prime Directive, and my hashtag will definitely give this one away. Hashtag Android Child Rescue Service. So season 2, episode 15, Pen Pals is my number 5 pick. And the reason I had wanted to put this actually higher on my list than number 5, but it wound up getting bumped down to number 5. But I find this episode really interesting because it's just 6 episodes after Measure of a Man, right? This is just not far after Data was declared an individual in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of Starfleet, and he's already taking chances with his career. So from a career standpoint, I mean, he could totally have been court-martialed for bringing this kid aboard the ship. I love that he's willing to take these types of risks. It shows how much closer he's getting to being a human. He's willing to put his career on the line to help this poor kid out who's been left alone on this dying planet. And I think it's a really cool glimpse into his evolution, especially being so early on in TNG.
Yeah, that's a moving episode. The way he responds to her. Yeah, and basically doesn't listen to Picard in terms of staying in touch with her and breaking the Prime Directive.
Exactly, and the fact that he's an android. I mean, the fact he would have been programmed to follow orders, but he's already evolving so far past that programming and proving the decision right that he was an individual and he should be recognized as such.
Right.
Yeah, love it. All right, so my number 5 pick was a little bit off the beaten track compared to these 3. It's basically based on it's my 5-word summary, so I'll give you that. Is triumphant Spiner performance raises level, and my hashtag is a long one. Felis catus is your taxonomic nomenclature, an endothermic quadruped carnivorous by nature. That's my hashtag.
Well done.
So it's a fistful of data. And of Data's, and it's actually one of my favorite TNG episodes of all time. It's number 23 at TrekRanks. I feel like that's higher than most people rate it.
There are people who don't like this episode and crap on it, and those people are wrong.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just love. It's just a defining Data because of Spiner's performance. It's just amazing. It's just and a ton of fun, and really the one bit of kind of it was a little bit of a game changer in terms of the sci-fi scope of the show and how far they went with it. So that part, I love it. But here's the main reason I picked it. It has one of the scariest moments in Trek history. And it's still, every time it like shocks me. And it's that moment where Worf is in the sheriff's office and he's talking with Deanna, and they just thrown one of the Hollanders into the jail cell, and basically talking about their next move, and then they cut to Data, who's now Eli. That Hollander is now Data as Eli Hollander, saying, "Oh, the sheriff's been injured. What's wrong with my paw? A little too rough on you?" So creepy when they just switch and all of a sudden Data's in the jail cell. That moment always.
See, I thought you were gonna say it's when Data came downstairs as the barmaid.
No, that was awesome. That was great. Oh, there's also great spot stuff in this. Get down, you little varmint, when he's trying to work. So yeah, that's my fun number 5 episode. I love that performance and love A Fistful of Datas. All right, so Andi, we already did your number 4 pick, right?
Yep.
Anything you want to add on the most toys? Could still come up again.
That guy sucks, and he deserved death.
Kiva Spaggio deserved it. Yes, he did. All right, Matt, what's your number 5 pick?
My number 5 pick. Well, I'll start. Well, we seem to be starting with the hashtag, so I'll start with my hashtag /summary. My hashtag for this one is Data May Have Gone Hal, and this is for the season 4 episode Clues.
Nice.
Ooh.
Hal being a reference to Hal from 2001, who, if you read the book or saw the movie and the sequel, the reason that computer malfunctioned is because it was keeping secrets from the crew and it didn't know how to lie. So in this episode, of course, Data's the only one entrusted with the secret that they've encountered this race that's so xenophobic that they've had to erase all the memories of the rest of the crew, and Data has to swear to secrecy to never tell them about it. I've always loved a good paranoid episode. Like, it doesn't feel like, it's not horror per se, but like when you start questioning the people around you and who to trust and who's telling the truth and who isn't, it's really cool. And they took an episode where the whole episode they were making Data out to be hiding something very sinister. But I like that the development at the end was that he was just following orders to the exact letter, which says something about his character. Like, if you tell him to do something that's, ethical at least, he will do it, even if it means, discipline or taking him apart, whatever. So loyalty is highlighted in that episode a lot. So that's why I went with that one. Plus, it's a good mystery.
Yeah, no, it's a really good Data episode too, where you just don't know what's going on with him. I love that scene where he suggests something and then they're like, "Okay, thanks, Data," and he walks out and they're like, "What the heck was that? Anybody buy that?" So, all right, Jeff, what do you got? Number 4.
All right, 5 words. Even tiny robots gain sentience. Hashtag injured. Call the law offices of Data, and Data. So season 6, episode 9, The Quality of Life.
Good pick.
Yes,
Thank you.
I love this pick.
Yeah, so I kind of felt this was a really good follow-up. I hate to mention Measure of a Man again, but I think this is a good follow-up to the Measure of a Man. So this now we have Data fighting for the rights of other robots that he considers sentient or he believes are sentient. So again, he puts his career on the line to help these robots he views as life forms. And I love the fact that he cites his ability to choose to sacrifice himself, the fact that he's allowed to do that, but these other robots are not allowed to make that same decision. And they're just being forced to go into a dangerous situation without the chance to either elect to do it or disagree.
I have observed that humans often base their judgments on what is referred to as instinct or intuition. Because I am a machine, I lack that particular ability. However, it may be possible that I have insight into other machines that humans lack.
If there were a way to save the captain and Geordi without destroying the exocomps, I would jump on it. But we have run out of time, and this is the only solution I've got.
Then let me offer an alternative. Transport me to the station. I will attempt a complete manual shutdown of the particle stream.
The radiation levels are too high, even for you. Your positronic net would ionize in no time. I can't let you sacrifice yourself.
Commander, if I give my life for my fellow officers, that is my choice. The exocomps no longer have a choice.
Then what if we reconnect their command pathways and we give them a choice? You've assumed the exocomps would shut down before accepting this mission. What if we ask them if they are willing to proceed?
That sounds reasonable, sir. If they choose to go, I would be willing to release the transporter lockout.
Fair enough.
I think this is another great evolutionary move for Data, even though it's 4 seasons past some of the other stuff that we were just talking about before. But I always love this episode just for that.
Yeah, I love that, and he's doing it at the expense of potentially Picard's life, which Riker points out to him very directly.
Actually, one of my favorite lines from that episode, it's always stuck out with me, is when he's explaining his theory about the exocoms in the briefing room, and the doctor woman's trying to shoot him down or something, and he says something to the effect of, "Doctor, there's little difference between you and a virus, but you're still both alive."
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Plus the analogy for life, with when he's talking to the doctor about fire, living and breathing. So, and plus exocoms are basically like kitty space robots.
Yeah, they are.
I love exocoms. They're
cute little things.
They're adorable. All right. I guess I'm up. All right. Finish off the 4th round. So this pick is it's only episode number 99 at TrekRanks. So it's not one of my all-time favorite go-to episodes, but I love the couple of deep Data moments in this episode. And it is also from season 5, Hero Worship. And my 5 words in a summary, this is the one where the little kid is acting like Data. And my 5 words is acting like Data, I'm in, hashtag, you have made an unwarranted extrapolation. And that hashtag is from one of these scenes that I love when Data's with the kid Timothy in his quarters, and he's working really hard on building this model temple. And I just love that the kid asks him what he thinks. And this is the real Data, because his response is, "Would you like a frank evaluation?" And then he just proceeds to tell him everything that's wrong with the temple. And this poor kid is just like, "I can't do anything right." And that's when Data says, "You're making an unwarranted extrapolation. I was merely offering an aesthetic analysis of this particular model. The base appears quite sturdy." Love that.
Huh. You were attempting to recreate the Dakaran Temple of Karal Hanish?
Isn't it great? See, there's the big hallway the teacher told us about. And that's where everybody came in. That's where they stood, and that's where the altar was. What do you think?
Do you wish a frank evaluation? It lacks the harmony that characterized this particular temple, and the Dakaran culture in general.
You hate it.
No, I am not capable of hatred.
Can't do anything right.
You are making an unwarranted extrapolation. I was merely offering an aesthetic analysis of this particular model. The base appears quite sturdy.
So that's one moment. But then the main reason I picked it is, and this is going to be a theme in some of my future picks, basically anytime Data's in command, at the end of this, I just love this. So he finally figures out, they're trying to figure out kind of the anomaly of the week, their problem, that the Enterprise is about to get crushed, and from above the horseshoe on the bridge, he's just like towering over Picard and Riker, and he just barks at him, "Lower the shields." And they kind of delay, and he's like totally serious, commanding face, voice, "Captain, lower the shields." They do. The day is saved. And I just love when the pragmatic, kind of straight shooting Data is just hammering it with his command presence like that. So those are usually my favorite Data moments, and I love that moment. Anybody want to comment on this? What's not actually a very good episode?
Yeah, I mean, you name the good moments, but it's one of those for me. It's like, oh, precocious child actor in Star Trek that doesn't act like a real kid.
Well, he's acting like Data. God, Matt. Oh my gosh. All right, let's just move on to the soup round, as it's known. Round 3, the soup round. You have to listen to past episodes of TrekRanks to know why it's called the soup round. But Andi, what's your number 3 pick? What do you got?
I chose The Offspring.
Nice.
I mean, it's hard to not put this on your list somewhere if you're talking about Data. There's just so much in it, and it's so beautifully acted by everybody, and it's so beautifully directed by Frakes, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful episode, and basically what I consider what Star Trek is at its best. an exploration of life and love.
Love. I am unable to correct the system failure.
I know.
You must say goodbye now.
I feel.
What do you feel, Lo?
I love you, Father.
I wish I could feel it with you.
I will feel it for both of us. Thank you for my life. Flirting. Laughter. Painting family. Female. Human.
Yeah, I don't think that it gets much better for Data's development here. And my 5 words and a hashtag for it is thank you for my life, hashtag BRB sobbing. Just
it's such a tearjerker.
It just kills my heart, man. Like even thinking about it just makes me go
every time.
When he says, "I wish I could feel it with you. I will feel it for both of us."
Yeah.
Yes, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
We will be talking about this episode again at some point in this show. I feel it. All right, let's move to Matt's pick with that in mind.
Now, my next one isn't necessarily a Data-centric episode, but it has one of my favorite Data moments in it that I had to put it on this list somewhere. Hashtag, may I call you Beverly, Starship Mine.
Oh, yes.
Because the subplot of Starship Mine, while it's a very cool Picard die-hearted space episode, this is one of my favorite episodes of all time of the series. But aside from the Picard Die Hard story, you have Data trying to learn the ins and outs of small talk.
Oh, Hutch.
Yeah.
With Hutch.
I was serving on Admiral Mitchell's staff on Starbase 97. Awful place, by the way.
You met our Commander Data?
Take your meaning exactly. As a matter of fact, I find it oddly amusing.
No, I don't think so.
Interesting. I'll introduce you.
There are several cultures in this sector with extremely similar etymological histories. For example...
Mr. Data, I don't know if you've had a chance to meet our host, Commander Hutchinson.
Call me Hutch.
Lieutenant Commander Data, our second officer.
A pleasure.
The pleasure is mine. Hutch. I've been meaning to compliment you on your choice of colors here.
Oh, you really think so? Well, it wasn't easy making a final decision, let me tell you.
I can well imagine. The light in this room would make color selection exceptionally problematic.
Precisely.
Just the way he does small talk, it makes me laugh every time, and everybody's reaction to him. And then they pair him up with Hutch, and then, Hutch has finally met his match. They just keep going and going and going. It's just, the facial expressions that Spiner makes, the performance he does. And, I mean, that part that I made my hashtag always makes me laugh when he goes, Beverly, may I call you Beverly?
That is so good. But top 15 episode at TrekRanks, by the way. It's a spectacular.
It's one of my favorites,
and it's such a good Data. Just for that stuff alone, it's awesome.
I mean, I know they go overboard a bit with him in the films, but I do like it when Picard gets to be an action hero and kick some ass.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure, and he does very well in that one. All right, Jeff, what's your number 3 pick?
All right, 5 words. Seriously, guys, you're gonna die. Hashtag people never listen to androids. Season 3, episode 2, The Ensigns of Command.
Yes.
So I love that Data is thrust into a situation that only he can overcome due to his advantages of being an android and being impervious to the radiation on the planet. So he may not, of course, be the best suited member of the Enterprise crew to compel these settlers to leave their planet, but he's really got no choice. And of course, it's very apparent at first that his approach, standard by the book approach, really isn't going to work on these people. And through the episode, I love that we see Data's approach evolve in reaction to the failed attempts that he makes over and over again. And he evolves from simply explaining the issue, hoping to compel the people to leave, to having to use his ingenuity to come up with a more forceful demonstration that finally actually works at the end. This displays his ability to grow and adapt to situations despite, of course, again, being programmed. So he's more evolving past that programming yet again in a really difficult situation that probably would have frustrated a lot of humans.
It was on my short list, definitely on my secondary systems, because it shows it's one of the first episodes where it shows, it's literally the first that shows his evolution of command, where he's trying to kind of figure it out. And I love that halfway through when he's giving he's pontificating, I can't remember the speech, but it's something along the lines of, so when they come, you will all die. Mm-hmm. And everyone's not really buying it. And Gershevin or whatever that guy's name is mocking him. But then he figures it out by the end, how to make that speech and how to command that situation. Love that. Very, very good episode. All right, let's close out the soup round with my number 3 pick, which is, my hashtag is something about Data in command. Hashtag, I hope I have not ended our friendship. It is season 7 episode, Gambit, parts 1 and 2.
I was just going to say that's my favorite episode of him in command. That would definitely be on my secondary list.
Yeah, it's so good. So it's an underrated set of episodes for me. They're actually number 12 and 13 at TrekRanks. They're super high. And mostly I love them because they're a rollicking adventure, but I just love Data in command, which I keep saying over and over. So in this one, he's got this reasoned approach to each next step as they are in this predicament, trying to figure out how to try and track down Riker. And the scene that really stood out for me is this moment where Worf is just getting increasingly frustrated because he just wants to do something. And they finally figure out kind of their plan of attack, and they can get the ship moving, and Worf just groans under his breath, finally. And immediately Data's like, can I see you in my ready room? And you just know, uh-oh, Worf is busted, because from there you just have that great dressing down where basically he just tells Worf he's not satisfied with his performance as first officer. He finds it unacceptable and ends it with, I hope I haven't ended our friendship. And of course, because Worf is the man, he immediately knows that he's being a jackass and asks for another chance. So it's just more great leadership stuff from Data. I love that in the moment.
I love the characteristics of basically Picard that he takes on when he's in command for extended periods of time. There was that scene in the ready room where he even walks into the ready room and turns around like Picard would. But the thing that stuck out to me the most is that when they're having one of their staff meetings in the observation lounge and he dismisses everybody, he steeples his fingers together like Picard does when he's thinking.
That's really good observation. He does have that Picard style. Love it. Okay, let's jump into round 2. Our number 2 picks. Andi, what do you got?
I have Deja Q.
Ooh.
And I chose Deja Q for a lot of reasons, because even though it's a Q episode, I think that it wouldn't work nearly as well without Data being like Q's human teacher, which is the funniest thing to me, that you have an android teaching whatever the hell Q is, what it is to be human. But I specifically chose it for the moment at the end where Data gets to laugh. And my 5 words and a hashtag are laughing my android ass off. Hashtag LMAAO.
Nice.
And I just think it's a really beautiful moment because he gives them this moment of just joy. And I mean, what's more human than laughter? And it's great because it's kind of funny and it's kind of creepy and it's kind of sad, and it's like all of these things all at once, and that is all Brent Spiner. And it's just it's such a great, I love how Geordi the whole time is like, what are you doing? And also, it's just a great moment.
I mean, he makes it feel like it's euphoric. You know what I mean? Because it's never happened to him before, and it's so joyous.
And then the way he caps it with that great line, it was like, I don't know, it was a wonderful feeling. Just love that.
Your description was so good because it is a little bit. It's joyous, it's exuberant, but it is a little bit sad and it's a little bit creepy. But
it's bittersweet.
Yeah, bittersweet is another good word. It was. This is a great pick because him teaching Q is genius.
Yeah. I mean, I'll have 10 chocolate sundaes. Really bad.
They play off each other really, really well, which I think just makes that episode way better than it would have been. He really adds a lot of flavor to it.
Well, there's that great Pinocchio moment too, where he says, "You have achieved in disgrace what I aspired to be."
Yeah.
So, yep. That's a great pick. Awesome. Not one that I had considered, but that's brilliant. All right, Matt, what's your number 2 pick?
My number 2 pick, I had to drop one of my words off my hashtag because it was 6 words and not 5, so it's really not as funny as it was.
Well, now you can add it back in.
Okay. Well, everybody, if anybody's listened to me before, they know I'm a fan of horror stuff and thriller stuff. So my number 2 pick, hashtag do androids dream of peptide cake?
Nice.
Is Phantasms. And I know it's not like the greatest episode in the world and it has a sci-fi trope that's pretty silly, but I don't know. The imagery in that episode, it's ultra creepy, ultra weird. Seeing Troy as the cake and then he later stabs her. It was just the right kind of odd. It was very like David Lynch that it hit my sweet spot. And I thought it was creative. So that's something that I gave major points for. And I know that it's not an episode that a lot of people think of. So that's why it's on here.
Yeah, it's definitely a strong imagery episode for Data. There is a lot of odd moments there.
I really love when he has the phone in him.
Yeah.
Like that's just something that will be burned in your brain forever. That shot of him answering his own phone.
Or
so amazing.
Beverly drinking out of Riker's head with a straw.
Oh yeah, that's one of the creepiest things.
Just I like how they captured what dreams really are. Like you have no idea why these things go together. They just do.
Yep. No, that's awesome. All right, Jeff, what is your number 2 pick?
Okay, 5 words. Data faces a Vulcan choice. Hashtag Data's Colinar. It is probably a pretty obvious pick, and it's a 2-parter. It's season 6, episode 26 and 27, Descent.
Yes.
We talked a lot about Data's evolution, but I think this is a good display of Data's vulnerabilities of being synthetic and being an android. So, I mean, it does take some extreme measures, of course, to hack him, but, lore proves that it's possible that you can gain control of Data in some way, shape, or form. But I love that once he's freed, he doesn't exact revenge. In fact, he actually tells Lore that he loves him before he deactivates him, which really goes to show that there's a real human side to Data. And specifically near the end, I really love the fact that Data's got this desire and willingness to destroy the emotion chip because he recognizes that was primarily what caused the situation in the first place. But moreover, I think it's a really interesting thought in a juxtaposition to the Vulcan approach of being born with emotion and removing them versus being born without emotion, getting emotions, and then choosing whether or not to keep them. I love that choice. I think that's an amazing thought, and it's something that none of us will ever be able to experience on our own. So it's just something we can only live vicariously through Data with that kind of a choice.
Right.
I was going to say it's just another strong evolution episode for him in terms of those decisions. What were you going to say, Matt?
I was just going to say, is anyone else surprised that it took us all the way down to number 2 to get a mention of Lore in here?
Yeah, I'm actually not surprised, but I'm glad Descent made it because that's a strong Data episode. And it's funny because I've always said my favorite part of that episode, it's actually one of the strongest Deanna episodes for me. The way their conversation about emotions in the outset of the first episode where she's basically explaining that they're not, emotions aren't good or bad. They're based on, So that was really good. And I thought that was pretty illuminating for Data. So
hashtag Deanna gets better with the uniform.
Good. Yeah, that is fair. Nice. That is fair. All right, we're gonna finish out. Get your hankies ready.
Uh-oh.
We're going back to the Offspring. That's my number 2 pick. So we have another duplicate, and my 5 words and a hashtag are Data Schools Jackass Admiral Halftel hashtag. I will feel for both of us.
Ugh.
And
I know.
Yeah, so this is just it's another epic Data episode. I mean, everyone knows this one, picks it, and there's no way I wasn't gonna pick it. So I like again the command part of this episode really when he's kind of faced with this jackass Admiral Halftel, and I just love his reasoned approach and arguments to actually both Picard and Halftel on his defense when Halftel's basically saying you have to give up your child to the state, and Data's ready to throw down. It says his quote was, "You asked that I volunteer to give her up. I cannot. It would violate every lesson I have learned about human parenting." And then from there, you get Picard jumping in to defend him with one of his famous speeches. It's one of the best, that there are times when men of good conscience cannot blindly follow orders. So I love that kind of command moment again where Data's defending himself. But the main reason I chose it, though, is really the Law moment at the end that Andi already mentioned. And it's a Law moment, but it's such a great Data moment, too, when he says, what do you feel? And she's literally says, "I love you, Father." And he says, "I wish I could feel it with you. I will feel it for both of us. Thank you for my life." Yes. Good job.
Hashtag BRB. Sobbing.
And then they put that nice little bittersweet tag at the end where he says, "She's not gone, she's in here," and he points to himself because he's downloaded the memories.
So good. It's really genius, and Frakes deserves so much credit for his direction on
his first directing job on Star Trek.
Yep, that's right. First one. So, all right.
Not his last.
Not his last. Speaking of last, we are down to our number 1 picks for our top 5 Lieutenant Commander Data episodes. Andi, kick us off. What's your number 1 choice?
Okay. This is not really a Data episode. But I chose Schisms. And I chose Schisms because of Ode to Spot.
I have written my next poem in honor of my cat. I call it Ode to Spot. Felis catus, is your taxonomic nomenclature an endothermic quadruped, carnivorous by nature? Your visual, olfactory, and auditory senses contribute to your hunting skills and natural defenses. I find myself intrigued by your subvocal oscillations, a singular development of cat communications that obviates your basic hedonistic predilection for a rhythmic stroking of your fur to demonstrate affection. A tail is quite essential for your acrobatic talents. You would not be so agile if you lacked its counterbalance. And when not being utilized to aid in locomotion, it often serves to illustrate the state of your emotion. Commander, you have anticipated my denouement. However, the sentiment is appreciated. I will continue. Oh, Spot, the complex levels of behavior you display connote a fairly well-developed cognitive array. And though you are not sentient, Spot, and do not comprehend, I nonetheless consider you a true and valued friend.
I have so much love for Ode to Spot, you don't even know. So first of all, the first time he did it, I was like laugh crying. I was so excited. When I was first time tracking it, I was just like, it was just all exclamation points. But when Sue and I first started podcasting together, Sue being one of my Women at Warp co-hosts, we both said, "Oh, we know Ode to Spot by heart," and the guy was like, "Are you sure? Why don't you try it?" And she did one line and I did the next, and we did the whole thing, and that was like the first time that I ever really met Sue. And when I was getting my Star Trek tattoo in Vegas, I started freaking out, and I was like, "I can't do this, guys, I can't do it." And they're like, no, you can do it, let's distract you. So Sue and I recited Ode to Spot while I was getting my tattoo, because it was the only thing that could like get me through it. Yeah, because I was just like, okay. And I was forgetting all the words because I was like freaking out. She's like, it's okay. It's okay. Endothermic quadruped. Keep going. Keep going. I'm like, carnivorous in nature. So I just have so much love for this. One of my favorite things about Data is that one of the things that he does to try and learn what it is to be human is he explores art. Yes. And I love that. I love that he does painting, and I love that he plays very badly sometimes the violin, and I love that he does all of these things, and I love that he tries to do poetry, and he's like, of course I'm going to do poetry about my cat. What else are you going to write odes to? And it's just the most Data thing to me, and it's so perfect, and I love that poem so much, and yeah, so that's why it's my number one pick.
It's so character defining, and plus, I love the reaction. Isn't that the one where like Riker falls asleep and then Troy nudges him awake, and he starts applauding, and it's not over yet?
Yeah. So my 5 words and a hashtag for this is Riker is sleeping, I'm living. Hashtag classic.
That's the one thing I don't like about it, is how disrespectful everyone is about this incredible poem.
Yeah,
it's the most perfect poem ever written.
Perfection.
Okay, all right. In defense,
celebrating.
In defense of Riker, he was falling asleep because the aliens kept abducting him in the middle of the night. Let's not forget.
Fair enough, but they were all rolling their eyes at their. Or no, it was Geordi was the one that's just like, it's a little flat, Data.
You're wrong, Geordi.
Yes,
wrong.
You
Hashtag wrong.
That is a spectacular pick. I did not expect Schisms to be a number one choice, but I did think Lotus Spot had a chance. Great job,
That's
Andi.
awesome.
All right, Matt, what's your number one choice?
So I went outside the box and I went to the movies.
No, those are in play, always in play.
Okay, you said episodes, so I didn't know if the movies were
episodes is shorthand for everything but animated series. Oh,
movies are just long episodes.
Exactly.
Right. So I have one tiny little bad word in here, but it's not that bad. So my hashtag for this is, oh shit, it's Mr. Tricorder, Star Trek Generations. So I had to pick this because this was my entry into Star Trek, and I would not be sitting here podcasting with you fine people had I not watched this movie back in '94. Yeah. And I just remember as a 5-year-old kid just finding, I mean, the Data stuff in Generations can be grating now, but to a 5-year-old, it was so weird and so goofy and so funny that it made me fall in love with his character right away, even when I was that young. And so that's always a good memory that sticks out in my mind. So that's why I end up liking Generations more than most people do, but that's because it was my entry point and it made me fall in love with the characters and the universe. And he goes through a lot of evolution in that one movie. So
well, that's a great reason to love a movie. I love that scene because it's shot with this really weird, eerie lighting. And it starts off with this kind of funny light. But then it gets really dark because when he starts like uncontrollably laughing and he can't stand, and it's like you start getting it's a little creepy, and then all of a sudden Soren shows up shooting at him. It's a really interesting scene.
And I love the exchange that he has with Picard in Stellar Cartography about how he can't do this, and courage can be an emotion too. I love that stuff. So I think Generations is underrated. So that's why it's my number one, and because it made me a fan.
I love it. I love it. All right, Jeff, what's your number one pick?
All right. 5 words. Patchwork Data saves the day. Hashtag cybernetic versus positronic. So I've also gone with the film for my number one pick, and it's pretty obvious. It's First Contact.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the thing I really love, I mean, this is not a Data movie, but I think
it kind of is.
Sort of, kind of. Well, he's got a great arc in this movie, but in this arc, I think it really tells us some interesting things about Data, and the fact that the Borg play on his desire to be human, and the fact that he considers it even for a minute amount of time. So from a physical standpoint, this is the closest Data can get to being a human, right? Having skin actually grafted onto his body. And I always wonder, his choice is really side with the Borg. If he sided with the Borg in that exchange, they obviously would have completed that transformation, right? And he would have been a quote unquote flesh and blood, as close as he could get to being human. But if he chose not to go with the Borg, which he didn't, of course, and he wound up saving the day and saving Earth in the process, why didn't he pursue completing the transformation on his own? I always thought about that. Like, you know, he's got the skin on parts of his body and on his face. He obviously knows how they were doing it. So he probably could have continued that transformation on his own.
He could have, but it's in character for him not to want that, because there was a couple of times where Q offered to turn him into a human, or Riker did when he was a Q, and all that sort of stuff. And Data's always turned him down, and I think it's because he doesn't want to achieve humanity artificially.
Yeah, but I feel like the temptation was real, and I'm with you. I
think it was real, but
yeah, I feel.
Is this the only time he's actually felt the sensations? I mean, you know, he's got the skin, and you know, she's blowing across the hairs on his arm, and he's actually feeling what it feels like to be a physical human being.
Right.
That was the difference that kind of made me buy that he might, you know, even though I didn't think he was, but where you think he might be tempted for 0.68 seconds.
It was brilliant. So I love that he had that choice in this movie.
I am the collector.
Perhaps I should rephrase the question. I wish to understand the organizational relationships. Are you their leader?
I bring order to chaos.
An interesting, if cryptic, response.
You are in chaos, Data. You are the contradiction, a machine who wishes to be human.
Since you seem to know so much about me, you must be aware that I am programmed to evolve, to better myself.
We too are on a quest to better ourselves, evolving toward a state of perfection.
Forgive me, but the Borg do not evolve. They conquer.
By assimilating other beings into our collective, we are bringing them closer to perfection.
Somehow, I question your motives.
That is because you haven't been properly stimulated yet.
You have reactivated my emotion chip. Why?
Don't be frightened.
I'm not frightened.
I just get jealous of Data in that movie, because wouldn't we all love to be able to just turn off our emotions every now and then, just so that we could get through something stressful with a clear head?
I pretty much wish I could turn off my emotions every day when I read the news these days. So
that's the truth.
Just Picard has that great line where he says, "Mr. Data, sometimes I envy you."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was on my very, very short. It's basically my sixth pick. I actually wrote up my notes, but ended up not using it. But it really, First Contact really is a Data episode in many ways. It's really his arc is fascinating in it.
Absolutely.
So, I love that ending when he hoodwinks her and then smashes the.
Yeah, it was brilliantly timed. I love the fact that we're watching the torpedoes slowly creeping towards, and you're watching the Borg Queen's face, and she's got this unbridled joy, like, I'm about to win. And you see the torpedoes go past, like, wait a minute, and she realizes in that split second it's too late.
And of course, I mean, that movie, they let him have the trailer line and the tagline line where he goes, "Resistance is futile."
Yes.
I love it.
It was beautiful. Yeah. With that angry look on his face.
I know, and I just remember that was in every TV commercial for it, every trailer for it, you know.
Yeah. All right, so let's finish this off with my number one pick, which, if you know my Trek ranks, and my all-time favorite episode of TNG is basically, well, it's a Klingon episode, it's Redemption. But for me, it's all about Data. And my 5 words and a hashtag are Data's shining moment, perfect Trek, hashtag FU Hobson. So, again, basically it's Data in command of the Sutherland here in Redemption 2. And his interaction at the end of that episode is probably could be one of my all-time favorite Trek moments. I just love it. And it's the main reason it's my all-time favorite episode of TNG.
What are you doing? In disrupting the detection net, the Romulans may have caused a residual tachyon signature to form around their own ships. But we have no way of detecting it.
All stop.
Hi, sir. All stop.
Sir, the fleet's been ordered to Gamma Eridon. Tachyon signatures will not last long. By the time the fleet is deployed, it will be too late. Begin to reconfigure the sensors to detect ionized particle traces.
The entire area has been flooded with tachyon particles. We'll never be able to find what we're looking for.
I am aware of the difficulties. Please bring the phasers back online.
That will flood 3 decks with radiation.
We will initiate radiation protocol when necessary.
You don't give a damn about the people whose lives you're throwing away. We're not just machines.
Mr. Hobson, you will carry out my orders or I will relieve you of duty. Yes, sir.
At the end, it's really when he it's what you expect from his character at that point is where he's in discussion of how they're handling these radiation protocols when Hobson's just being a huge passive aggressive baby. And he says, "You will carry out my order. I will leave you of duty." Just, I love that moment. I love the control he has in that scene when he catches the Romulans with their pants down. But I also love that there's a smaller moment earlier in the episode when he hasn't been given command of a ship by Picard.
Oh yeah.
And he asks him about it, and he says, and it's not passive aggressive at all. When he learns he's not going to be selected, he says, "Perhaps I should address myself to improving my." And then Picard just realizes he's screwed up and gives him the Sutherland. I love that moment when Data's asking him about it. So, yeah, that redemption for me is all about those scenes with Data on the Sutherland in part 2. Some of my favorite Trek ever, and defining Data moments.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, Andi, you were talking earlier about with the child about the Data shutting down disrespect. How awesome is that moment where the first officer's like listing all the reasons why he wants to transfer off, and then Data says, "I understand your frustration. Request denied."
Yeah, that is so good.
I love that. That's definitely on my secondary transmissions.
Systems.
Systems. That definitely was one of my favorite moments too. That's that, and I was also thinking about, I'm not sure what episode it is in, where it's one of the Dr. Song episodes where Data kind of gets taken over and he shuts the entire Enterprise down all by himself.
Yeah, brothers.
Oh my god, it's so badass. It makes you wish that Data was on your side for like a heist movie. He'd be so good.
That was on my secondary systems too. Love that.
Yeah, that and him taking command. He was so good in command.
Yep, love it. All right, any other secondary systems from you, Andi? Those are pretty good.
No, those are the two that came to mind.
All right, what about you, Matt? What's on your what just missed?
So, I mean, it's probably the best Data episode, but it's also the one most people go to, Measure of a Man.
I can't believe nobody picked that.
I cannot believe I was just about to say that.
I didn't pick it because it was, I thought it was expected. But, I love that episode, and I'd be lying when I saw that when I was little, if that didn't inspire in some way my career choice. Also, too, now this is an episode that's definitely not loved, and it's not very good, except for, I would argue, the Data parts. And that would be the outrageous Okona. Because now let me give you some context, okay? So
you don't like that episode? What?
It's not good.
I'm kidding. It's not.
But that was one of the first episodes I started watching after Generations, when my parents were taping the reruns for me and I was watching them before school. And I gotta say, there's nothing funnier to a 6-year-old than Data trying to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Or awkward. Yeah.
It just was funny to me.
Yeah.
The thing about Measure of a Man for me is that I agree that Data is awesome in it, but to me that episode belongs to Picard and to Guinan. So like when I'm thinking best Data episodes, that's definitely something I'm thinking about. But as amazing as he is in that episode, I think the things that other people learn from him in that episode is even more amazing. So
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. That's why it probably didn't get picked. But a lot of people will definitely pick it in their feedback, I'm sure.
And my last one is like I do love a good Data Goes Evil episode, and one of my favorites is Power Play, where Troy O'Brien and Data get taken over by the entities that are on the prison planet, and it's just a good standoff movie. I mean, episode.
Yeah, but hard to pick because it's not really Data. So.
I know, but he has good moments in it. Like
for sure.
He chokes out Picard and lifts him up.
Oh yeah, jerk. All right, how about you, Jeff? Any secondary system choices?
No, I feel a little disingenuous because I deliberately avoided picking Measure of a Man because it was one of my top 5 comfort food picks way back in the early days of Trek Ranks. So I felt like I shouldn't pick the same episode again. I know that's not the modus operandi of Trek Ranks, and I shouldn't feel that way. And
you can define your prime directive any way you want.
I know. I felt a little bit off, but Offspring was definitely on my secondary systems pick. I'm glad other people had picked that as well, and Phantasms also made it in there too. So I'm glad that my secondary systems all wound up getting picked by other people.
Yeah, I had First Contact on mine, as I said. I also had Data's Day because I really think
that's a good one too.
That's an amazing amalgamation of all things Data. But the one moment, what were we gonna say, Matt?
I was gonna say but again, it was one of those things where when you say Data episodes, my mind went there, and I'm like, well, if my mind goes there, everyone else is gonna go there, so I'm not gonna pick it.
Again, that's your prime directive. So I'm glad, Andi, that you brought up the art thing because that he's always pursuing art. Because the one other Data moment I wanted to mention was from a matter of perspective at the beginning when Picard's painting in a class.
When he's critiquing him.
Yeah, and he says, your painting quite inappropriately attempts to juxtapose the disparate cubistic styles of Picasso and Leger. In addition, the use of color suggests a haphazard melange of clashing styles. Furthermore, the unsettling overtones of proto-Vulcan influences.
I mean, to be I thought that was interesting. Data has learned a little bit about humans at that point because at first, doesn't he just try to do the android version of it's very nice.
I really think it's interesting. Colors are cool. That kind of it's totally great. And I remember when I was first time trekking it, I was like, don't ask him, Picard. Don't ask him. And then he asked him.
The other great part is that he also critiques 2 other paintings beforehand and he praises them. So it's that's a great scene.
It's going to be bad because like you said, he praises the other 2 guys and then he stops in front of Picard's and he just kind of stares at it until Picard asks.
So good. All right, so with that, I think we can wrap up this in-depth look at Old Yellow Eyes himself. Such a great character. But it's time to activate our regeneration cycle.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
Okay, so let's get into just a quick recap of our choices. So I like to run down, have everybody have a quick summary. So Andi, run through your 5 picks really quick.
Sure. It was The Child, The Most Toys, The Offspring, Deja Q, and Schisms.
Schisms. That's amazing. All right, Matt, run down your top 5.
So mine were The Most Toys, Clues, Starship Mine, Phantasms, and Star Trek Generations.
I got a great Star Trek marathon coming up because these picks are awesome. Jeff, How about you?
All right, number 5, Pen Pals. Number 4, The Quality of Life. Number 3, The Ensigns of Command. Number 2, Descent Parts 1 and 2. And number 1, First Contact.
I am glad we finished with 2 movies in the first round because those are both on my short list. All right, my top 5 were Fistful of Datas, another Ode to Spot shout out, Hero Worship, Gambit, The Offspring, and Redemption. All 4 episodes where Data just kicks ass in terms of his command presence. So let's run through some quick stats. So we only had 2 duplicates, The Most Toys.
Yeah, not bad.
And The Offsprings. That's pretty good. We had no Measure of a Man. That is stunning. Although Andi made a great point for why that probably happened. All right, and let's break it down by season really quick here. Season 1, 0 picks. That's not surprising. Season 2, 2 picks. the strong season 3 5 picks, 1 from season 4, 3 from season 5, 5 from season 6, 2 season 7 episodes, and 2 films. I love breaking down the stats of the picks. So that was pretty well spread out there. Season 3 and season 6 getting the most data love. So, all right. So after all that, we still aren't quite done because, as we do every week, we don't want to end the show. So we've gotten ourselves stuck in a temporal causality loop. So before we can depart, it's time to hear from you.
The Enterprise has been caught up in a temporal causality loop, and I suspect that something similar may have happened to you.
Again, Jean-Luc? Oh, man. We're stuck in a temporal causality loop again.
Every episode.
And that's good because I love it because it means we get to talk about some more Star Trek. So it's perfect. All right. So this week, we're looping back in time to episode 7 of the TrekRanks podcast and our top 5 one-off villains, which was an awesome show. And, man, as always, we got some unbelievable lists from our listeners. And in a minute, I'm going to relay my favorite list. But before we do that, I want to just give a couple of quick shout-outs to a few awesome individual picks because there was a few that just stood out on all the lists that came in. The first one, I love that Alex Perry, that's at Alexander T. Perry on Twitter.
Great guy.
Yeah, great guy. He included Colonel Grat on his list from the Enterprise episode Detained, which I love. Basically, the classic Quantum Leap reunion show with Bakula and Dean Stockwell.
Yep.
Awesome pick. I think he's pretty sure he's the only guy to pick him. And then another great solo pick, and this one's more of a gag, was because he later reneged it, and he actually wasn't eligible, was Captain Revo on Twitter. He had Gol Evek on his list. And when I first saw it, I was like, yes, Gol Evek. He's one of the few characters that appeared in TNG, DS9, and Voyager.
Oops.
But then right away he sent a list and said, I meant Gol Madred from Chain of Command. And of course, because he appeared in all 3 of those episodes, he wasn't
eligible. Right.
But I wanted to mention it just because how much I love Gol Evek. Great character. So, all right. So, our actual pick this week, again, comes from Mr. Carl Wonders on Twitter. He sends a bunch of good lists, and his number 1 pick and his number 3 pick I absolutely love, so I had to include his list. And he picked 5 words. He did his full 5 words and a hashtag on Twitter. So here we go. Number 5 was Kivas Fajo from The Most Toys. And his 5 words and a hashtag was obsessed collector loses it all. Hashtag no pleasure. I love this pick because he was my number 1 pick last week. So his number 4 was Admiral Satie, which we didn't pick. None of us picked. No. She was on the short list for everybody. Witch Hunt still relevant today. Hashtag don't forget the chain. Love it. Was it? Don't forge the chain. Right. Excellent. All right. His number 3 was Yelgren from DS9. Again, I think he's the only one to pick. Maybe one other person picked Yelgren, but
he's the only one, I think. Yeah.
His 5 was cloned Vortas don't understand family.
Sweet.
Hashtag weekend at Empok Nor, which I love. The Weekend at Bernie's reference, and Iggy Pop. So great list. Number 2 was our most popular choice, General Chang.
Yep.
No peace in our time. Hashtag cry havoc.
Dude, can I tell you, Jim, that I am so happy with the amount of people on Twitter, and I know we're not reading everyone's list, but the amount of picks for General Chang just was incredible.
I know, literally on more than half the list for sure. It was pretty cool. He's a popular choice. And his number 1 was one that I never even considered or thought of, was Mirror Spock. Mirror. I know, so good. Wow. His 5 words was changing the present is logical. Hashtag state facts, not threats.
Yeah, that's a great pick too, because he's another one of those villains where you could make a case for him being a villain or being a good guy. Exactly. He's in the Mirror Universe. You assume everyone in the Mirror Universe is a villain, but he really bleeds the lines.
Yep.
Because he winds up helping the Prime Universe people.
Yeah, it was really an inspired pick and
incredible.
And he was also a villain. He was like, "Hey, we need to kill these." Halconians.
And he was big with the Agonizer.
Exactly. No, Mr. Spock. I'm sorry. It won't happen again, Mr. Spock.
Your agonizer, please.
Okay, Mr. Kyle. All right. So that should be more than enough to get us through the temporal loop this week. I think some great feedback coming in from everybody on Twitter. We love that. So just, want to thank everyone again for the amazing responses that we continue to get from our first few episodes. So keep those lists coming to me at TrekRanks on Twitter so we can add them to our database numbers and can retweet them. But also, we want to hear from you too. So please put together your list of top 5 data episodes. This is the easy one. We know they're on the top of your head. Off the top of your head, you could just rattle off data episodes. So give us a call. Tell us your list, and we can get you on the show. Call us at the Tricorder Transmissions at 609-512-5527. That's 609-512-LLAP. Hopefully we'll hear from you so we can feature you guys on the next episode of Trek Ranks. And speaking of the next episode of Trek Ranks, I'm super excited about this topic. It's a super niche topic. I'm already struggling trying to narrow this down and come up with the best of the best. It's going to be another series-specific topic. Drum roll, please. We're doing our first Voyager episode, and the topic is top 5 sick burns from Voyager.
Oh, nice.
That's right. That's right.
Is it just going to be a long list of Tuvok moments?
Yeah.
Oh,
and the Doctor.
There's so
Tuvok and the Doctor.
Oh, there's also, Janeway and Paris and 7 of 9. There are so many hilarious sick burns.
I just
one-liners.
I had to bite my finger just now from rattling off some of them because Andi hasn't gotten there yet.
Oh yeah, that's right. She might not have seen it yet.
No,
so,
she's not seen it. Well, she got to this far. Remember that 3rd episode where the Doctor's like, the captain is missing. It seems I found myself on the voyage of the damned.
Yeah,
I was thinking the first thing that I thought was that's a Starfleet expression for get out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Even from the very first episode, tricorder, medical tricorder. Yeah. All right. So for that episode,
the first one that I thought of, and this won't spoil anything for Andi, but remember when Tuvok and Janeway are in the ready room, and Janeway's getting mad about discipline, and Tuvok's like, "Shall I flog them as well?"
Yeah.
I love that. How about, I was thinking about this. I'm not sure if it's a sick burn or not, or maybe it is. I think it's a sick burn on himself when Chakotay says, you were working for her. She was working for them. Was anybody on this ship working for me?
Yeah.
The answer is no.
Sick burn, Chakotay. You just burned yourself. So
congrats. You played yourself.
It's going to be a hilarious episode. And we had to narrow it down to one series. There's no way we could do all of Trek with sick burns. We're doing one of these for all 5 series at one point. So
I was sad I can contribute to your food episode.
Yes, well, someday we'll do drinks and desserts. So those are, and we'll probably do food again. Why not? All right, so we're going to be joined by Adam Hulit on that episode. He's actually suggested that topic, which I love. So he is at Adam Hulit on Twitter. Great guy, really knows his Trek. So looking forward to that one. All right, so before we wrap it up here, a huge thank you to Matt and Andi Noonien-Sung. Great job, you guys. I hope
she's genetically enhanced to be awesome.
All right,
we're gonna miss you this year, Andi.
Yeah.
Well,
next year.
Spoiler alert: this episode's coming out after Vegas, but who cares? It's a temporal causality loop. All right, guys. So, as I always say, thanks for engaging with us here on episode 8 of the Trek Ranks podcast. And I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here in this place where I belong.
Captain, we have arrived at Tanaka 4. The away team has completed its survey of Dr. Apgar's work and is ready to return to the ship.
Good. Oh, please. And feel free to examine the work of the other students, too.
Ensign Williams' striking style is heavily influenced by geometric constructivism. Lieutenant Wright has effectively fused the incongruities of the surrealists with the irrationality of Dadaism. Interesting.
Oh, thank you. In what way?
While suggesting the free treatment of form usually attributed to Fauvism, this quite inappropriately attempts to juxtapose the disparate cubistic styles of Picasso and Léger. In addition, the use of color suggests a haphazard melange of clashing styles. Furthermore, the unsettling overtones of proto-Vulcan influences.
Thank you, Mr. Data.
You are welcome, sir. If I can be of further assistance...
No, thank you.
Hi there, thanks again for listening. If you're cruising the galaxy looking for even more Trek talk, why not visit our good friends Bill and Dan over at TrekGeeks.com? They've got a great podcast that covers a wide range of Star Trek topics, so you're sure to find something you'll love. And if you're in the mood for some awesome tunes, then you really need to head over to 5yearmission.net. The guys are writing a song for every episode of the original series, and each one is absolutely brilliant. So that's TrekGeeks.com and 5yearmission.net. Check them out today.